This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, where in a single moment you can recognize your brilliance and change your life. This is a transformational hour that covers an array of topics that demonstrate how individuals use their native talents, as shown in their name, to look at the ordinary in extraordinary ways. Albert Einstein once said that everybody's a genius. Why would one of the smartest people on the planet declare that everyone is a genius unless he knew that to be true? I'm Sharon Lynn Wyatt, and in each weekly show, you'll hear the fascinating ways other people discovered the genius in them and what they were able to accomplish. At the end of each show, you'll hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. All over the world, people have many, many diverse interests, and in that vein, people have asked about different occupations and areas of life that have highly interested them. People want to know how highly successful people have managed to achieve their genius mindset by utilizing the gifts that are seen in their name, utilizing numerology science. Some of the letters ask about how does someone express their creative talents and how does someone share those gifts with others in such a way that all benefit. Our expert tonight is Alison Baughman, who has developed her genius in the area of numerology after being a successful artist in Central New York. Alison Baughman is a professional numerologist who has authored the book, Get His Number, a numerologist's guide to what he isn't telling you, which is a lighthearted look at compatibility. She is a frequent radio show guest, most notably on Coast to Coast AM. Alison hosts her own weekly talk show on BBS Radio for over 5 years now, titled Visible by Numbers. Alison first discovered numerology as a child and studied it continuously since then. She began reading people professionally 16 years ago and reads for people both in the United States and also internationally. She has continued to explore other means of divination besides numerology, which includes holistic healing, chakras, meditation, QiGong, Reiki, crystals, mediumship, Reiki, and the list goes on. Numerology science indicates that Alison's name, within that name, that she has a logical mind and is excellent at deductive reasoning. She processes things logically and has the step-by-step approach that serves her well. She'd also have a talent in music if she chose to pursue that avenue. Alison's name also indicates that she has an outstanding memory and that she specializes in remembering the details so well that she can drive others crazy with the minutia. This would serve her well in remembering the intricacies associated with numerology. Her name also indicates that she is a workaholic, as she enjoys solving the puzzles that life presents. Highly independent, Alison would not be one to let someone else hold her back. Her name also indicates that she's a lifelong learner, so it's no surprise that she has continued studying various divination tools. Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You radio show, Alison.
Hi there. Well, thank you for having me.
How did you discover your interest in numerology at such a young age? I mean, most people would not have even been exposed to numerology at age 6.
Well, my mother was a teacher, so I learned to love books from a very early age, and my preference for the type of book I like to read was a biography. So I think from a very early age, I was looking at people's lives from the moment they were born and how their life unfolded and how they achieved their destiny, so to speak. And so I just would read any biography I could get my hands on. And in the summertime, I spent a lot of time at the library, usually in search of the next great biography. And that's when I discovered my first numerology book. And it was almost as though now I was holding the manual that kind of explained how these people achieved their destiny of all these biographies that I read. And in all honesty, as a child, I also was interested in things like meditation. I read Edgar Cayce. I was interested in a lot of things that would be considered very spiritual at a very young age.
I think that's just amazing, because at that age, most people don't have any clue what they're interested in. So as you developed it and as you kept studying it, was it intermittent that you studied it, or was it pretty consistent all the way through?
Well, it's not like I became a child prodigy numerologist or anything. I mean, I certainly had the basic understanding of numerology. I had my own specific destiny of something that I had to work out, which had a lot to do with having children and a family. It isn't that I wasn't interested in numerology. It isn't that I wasn't always fascinated with the numbers, but it wasn't specifically what I did. It was more like a closet sort of a thing. And also, I really honestly feel I was born in 1953, and I'm not so entirely sure that the environment was particularly ripe, for people embracing numerology. So, it was something that really, when I finally came to taking what I knew and using it, really was many, many years later. And I came to this crossroads where, I couldn't do my artwork anymore because my hand had, I had developed tendonitis in my hand so bad that it was
Hold
impossible.
that thought for us, please. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which can be heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. After the break, we'll hear more about numerology and what this upcoming year holds for us.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Numerology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created numerology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is being heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Our guest tonight is Alison Baughman, whose website is visiblebynumbers.com. You know, namology science uses the placement of the letters in a name to determine personality characteristics, but numerology uses numbers. So in numerology, Alison, how important is a name, and how do the numbers work?
Okay. To me, when you're looking at a person's name, when you're looking at a person's date of birth, and when you're even looking at the letters in a person's name, each one of those letters represent a number. Each number has a meaning. It's almost like each number is an archetype. So you can literally make a great determination about someone just based on their name, you know, whether it's the first letter, whether it's what it adds up to. And when you're looking at numerology in general, when you're just asking yourself, well, what is it and what does it do? You know, we have a life that we come to lead. We have certain talents and abilities that we brought with us. We have a destiny, something to achieve while we're here. We have challenges that are written into our soul plan. Numerology really is like the GPS for your life. It's a guidance system. It really explains everything about your life with incredible accuracy and also with incredible detail. When we look at the letters of the name, you know, quite frankly, from the moment you're born, you're working through those letters of your name each year, depending on, you know, how many years they run, but really they actually influence your experiences. So there's a tremendous amount of information that comes in from the name and certainly from the date of birth and using numerology.
So this would imply that there's predestination to some degree. Would you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I believe that our lives are predestined, and that's pretty much evidenced by people's lives. That when you've done as many readings as I have, and you know, one of the greatest teachers for numerology is literally doing readings and hearing the validation from your clients, and they literally are doing almost at the exact moment in time what their numerology is saying. Their talents and abilities really are in alignment with what numerology is saying. Their destiny and what, you know, everything is really in alignment. It's an extremely accurate tool. So would I say that life is predestined? Absolutely. But by understanding your numerology, we certainly do have choices on how we perceive our experiences. We certainly have choices on how to do things better, how to live a more successful and more purposeful life. You know, so there certainly can be adjustments to what we came to do.
You know, you are so adept at numerology, which is why I am absolutely thrilled that you're here with us tonight. What were your stumbling blocks along the way when you were getting started, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think my stumbling block was that when you approach a subject, you assume that you have a lot to learn. And what was really bizarre to me was it was almost as though I've always known numerology. It was almost as though this information wasn't new. This information was something I was already familiar with. I literally own a library of numerology books, and I think for the longest time I was in search of teach me something I don't know. Teach me something that I must be missing. teach me something that I don't understand. And what I really found is I had to come to that point of realizing that I really knew numerology, and whether or not I could explain it, I couldn't explain it, but I had to come to the conclusion that this was really almost a forte, if you will. It was just something I was very adept at, and it was something I really understood up to a level that I couldn't possibly explain. And so, for a while there, it was just like not really believing in that. I didn't really believe that about myself, but, I've come to realize it now. And it's not ego. It certainly isn't ego, because I'm an extremely humble person. That was a really hard thing for me, though. I just kept searching, like I must be something I'm missing, but honestly, I don't know. I just knew it from a very early age.
Well, both of your books explain it very well. I've had the joy of reading both of them, and so you say, you didn't maybe know how to explain it, but you do a great job in your books. How did becoming a numerologist change your life when you actually started doing it and getting paid for this?
Changed my life. Well, I've always wanted to help people, and this would be something that's kind of consistent going back into my life. I worked for the Red Cross, volunteer. I worked for the hospital as a volunteer. I worked for the crisis hotline as a volunteer. So there is that being of service to others. There is that caretaker energy that I hold. So one of the beautiful things about numerology is being able to take this information and this knowledge and use it to help people. And so combining those two things, I think was, it was a win-win situation for me to be able to do that. And how it has changed my life, interesting. Let me think. I would say that it's made me incredibly happy to connect with so many different people on so many different levels, and to know that perhaps something that I said inspired them to be a better version of themselves. Or, when somebody comes to you with a crisis and you're able to explain it to them based on what you're seeing in the chart and give them some clear direction, encouragement, and they may call you being in a state of distress, and when they hang up, they have a better grip on it, and they're, feeling stronger. Having that kind of an influence, it's an incredible responsibility, but also it's incredibly gratifying to be able to do that for people.
When people call you for a reading, do you find that most people would like to know about the same thing, like job, love life, that kind of thing, or what has your experience been? I
find that I think that like draws like. So I feel that if understanding my own energy, I find a lot of people are drawn to me because there's something in me that they connect to without really realizing what that is. I find that a lot of people call me for more of a spiritual understanding of their purpose, and they're looking for that greater spiritual connection through the actual reading. But you always have people that are looking for how do I make more money. How do I get a better job, or when is my new job coming, and what about my love life? Those are always, part of the reading. Those are always questions that people ultimately ask. Sometimes people, could have tragedy or something that happened in their life, and they're just calling you, trying to find, a reason for things. I find it interesting for me that with readings, it would be lovely if everybody called me up and they were in a fantastic, amazing mood, and they were just happy and joyful. But I find most often when people approach you for a reading, they're really seeking and they're really searching, or perhaps they've gone through something difficult and they want some answers to it. So, that's what I find. Most of my clients are just kind of looking for direction.
And so numerology gives them that because of the way the numbers work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure that all of our listeners here understand numerology. We just know that there's 6 numbers involved, and if you could explain just a little bit about how you're getting answers from those 6, I think that would really help them understand numerology.
Well, it's not 6 numbers.
Okay.
Numerology is an ancient divination tool. It's based on the teachings of Pythagoras. It's based on knowledge that's rooted in cultures like Rome, Egypt, Greece, China, even has ties to the Hebrew Kabbalah. And if you even understand Pythagoras, his birth was foretold, and he had opportunities to study with some of the greatest religious people of the time. So we have this ancient knowledge that has been passed down, and we tend to look at numbers and apply it mathematically, adding and subtracting or whatever. But we need to understand that the numbers actually represent energy and archetypes. And so with numerology, it's literally using a specific set of calculation methods to come up, so to speak, with a chart that has specific numbers in specific areas that tell us specific things about our clients or the person that we're doing the reading for. That's my best explanation for what numerology is. But I will tell you that I am an extremely skeptical person. And so for me, for something to be this far removed from the source and have it be so incredibly accurate, I believe that there's a certain amount of magic to numerology. I do find it to be extremely accurate. Otherwise, I wouldn't use it. It's an incredible tool.
So does one connect their intuition to numerology? Is there a place for intuition? And if people have a stronger intuition, are they better at it? Or can anybody do this with enough study?
Numerology? Well, I feel, to be frank and to be honest, I think some of the best numerologists are 7 life paths because of having that ability to study something to the point of becoming an expert, but I also feel like having that rational, methodical sort of a mind, and also being drawn to spiritual philosophy. I think 7s have a greater capacity to understand spiritual philosophy on a deeper level. So I really feel that some of your greatest tarot readers and astrologers and numerologists are probably 7s. But that doesn't mean that anyone can't learn it. It's an easy enough thing to learn. And certainly you could use it in everyday life, just meeting people, just being able to run the numbers on their first name or even look at the first letter of their name can tell you a tremendous amount of information about a person. You can use it, a superficial knowledge of numerology. You can use that to help you with your relationships, to understand people. So, I think anyone can use numerology. Anyone can become a numerologist. I think some people have more aptitude than others.
Well, you've written quite a few articles on your website, visiblebynumbers.com. One article is on 6 ways numerology can improve your life. Would you share just some of those ways with us?
Well, I think that one of the things that numerology does is when you understand your chart, it helps you to understand yourself better. So there's that element of self-love, because I really think sometimes when we're born and when we grow up, we try to fit in with our families and our friends, and we try to fit into society, and we get lost along the way. But I think numerology really brings us back to center and helps us understand who we are. So the self-love, I think, is really important. It's really, when we're looking at everyone in our life, whether it's our relationships, our coworkers, our mother-in-laws, or our siblings, if we can use numerology to understand them, we can have better relationships, which I think is really an important, it can help you you can't change people, but if you understand what makes them tick and what's important to them is important to them, their numbers are their numbers. You can't change those numbers. So it really brings about this acceptance. I accept you for who you are. And it kind of takes away the whole judgment thing where sometimes we expect people to be like us, to think like us, but we stop judging and we just allow people to be who they are. And I think by being able to do that with the people in your lives, it helps to bring about a greater peacefulness in your life. It's almost, life just becomes a little bit easier because there isn't that friction anymore because you understand people on a much deeper level. So I think that is really one of the major things that numerology is so beneficial for. I also believe that, connecting yourself spiritually, to the mission of your soul and understanding things on a spiritual level, I think that's really important. And in all honesty, I can't remember what the other 3 were. I don't know when was the last time I read that article, so. But I think those are really
important. If they want the rest, but if they want the rest, they can go to your website. Stay tuned to Know the Names, Know the Genius in You. This show is dedicated to finding out how numerology can help us see more clearly what's happening in our life. After the break, we'll find out how Alison Baughman has used her.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Alison Baughman, and her website is visiblebynumbers.com. Alison, Before the break, we were speaking on how numerology can improve our lives. So I would love to see how that works with seeing what's coming next. And you've done wonderful predictions on your website on what you see coming in 2017. But before we start on that, before we start on this year, is it necessary to understand what happened last year because that was a number 9 year?
Well, everything is in cycles, and so I think last year gives us a really great understanding about why this year is the way it is, because in the 9 year there's endings and completions and letting go, and there's a lot of drama and extremes of emotions. And so I think in the understanding that sometimes in order to bring in new energy or new beginnings, we have to let go of things and almost like destruct things in order to reconstruct. So, yeah, I think it's important to understand that we're always in this cycle. So we did the 9 year last year, and we're in the one universal year this year, which is the time of the new beginnings after everything that went on last year.
So what are the joys about being in a number 1 year?
The joys of being in a 1 year is historically speaking, if we go back and we look into the past and we look into other one universal years, is that there's a time of like first, the first time ever, so to speak. And that can be somewhat exciting. I think they just recently, they discovered that there's 7 more planets, that Earth-like planets, which is a first. But if you go back in history, Disney World was created in a one universal year, the television, soap operas, Burger King, the first zip code. I mean, we can go on to all these wonderful things that were long-lasting and enduring that occurred in a one universal year. So we have to look at this year as a year to plant seeds, so to speak, so that whatever we're doing this year as it unfolds, this is something that really can come to fruition and be quite successful. That's the nice thing about the 1 year. Things begun in a 1 year tend to have that opportunity. It's the right timing for it, so therefore it has opportunity to be quite successful. I think 1 year is also, there's a lot of inventiveness and out-of-the-box thinking, and so I think that there will be, whether there's advances in technology or medicine or new businesses, but I feel like there's certainly opportunity for that as well. So that's positives in it.
So if somebody wanted to move, would one be a most optimum year to move in?
Well, what we're talking about when we're talking about a one universal year is we're talking about 2017, and when you add that across, it's a 1. So the universal year applies to everyone on the planet. It is the energy that creates the universal experience. When it comes to moving, getting a job, and if somebody was in a one personal year, it's a different. You arrive at a personal year differently than a universal year. So to answer your question, a person in a one personal year, yes, that would be a great time to get a new job or to move or to go in a different direction, without question. But people have their own personal years, and so for me, I always would like to look to see what year they're in and then, give advice based on that. Because you wouldn't want to start a job in a 9 universal year because chances are that job is not going to work out for you. It isn't going to be long-lasting or enduring. So knowing your cycles personally is really kind of important so that you know how to direct the energy from year-to-year basis, for the most success.
Well, that's cool. What are the challenges that we're in a one universal year that affects everybody?
Well, I think the 1 year is a year of action. It's a year of, almost aggression, being, really pushing forward. So I think one of the big challenges to the one universal year is just acts of aggression. In a time when we're seeing the protests as well, which people are standing up and they're voicing their opinions and they're being more aggressive about things. I think we're seeing this, but also we're seeing, whether China in the China Sea, whether we're seeing North Korea, this is a time where we have to be really careful and not to start wars. And because once again, going back historically speaking, if we look at one universal years, a great many wars were started in one universal years. And quite interesting, assassinations as well, which recently Kim Jong's brother was assassinated in an airport. Interestingly enough, that's a characteristic of a one universal year. Coups with governments, overthrows of governments, those happen quite often in a one universal year. So there's this other element to the one that once again, going back in history, it's something that we have to be cautious about.
So you made some predictions based on numerology and your understanding of that for 2017. Could we start with the economy? Is this a good year? Will it have ups and downs during the year, or is it pretty much the same throughout the year? How are you seeing our economy in 2017?
Okay. Well, the economy in one universal years are generally good. So with that being said, but that doesn't mean that there will not be, I believe, and I want to reiterate one thing to you, okay, because when we're looking at me putting predictions down, the manner in which I do predictions are based on numerology and the understanding of the number. But there's also another element, a process that I use to come up with my predictions, okay? So when I'm looking at the economy, as a rule, it should be a positive overall outlook for the economy. But there certainly can be those day tradings where things get panicky, where for some stupid reason, the stock market can rise and fall, or it could just be a choppy day here and there. But as a rule, I kind of feel this would be a very positive year for our economy. But it's important to watch certain months for fluctuations, and those would be April, July, August, and December. Those would be months that you would want to kind of pay attention to.
Okay, so what about the weather? It appears that each winter lately is getting colder than the one before, and the storms are becoming more drastic. Will this continue this year, or do we get some relief, or what are you seeing related to weather?
Well, when I was discussing the weather, the hurricane season was one of the things that I discussed, and there's no question that we're going to have a more active. The Atlantic was rather quiet for many years in a row, but I think the Atlantic and the Eastern Seaboard certainly is threatened this year. One of the things that I brought up was flooding, and that's already transpired. I specifically said California. There's been a tremendous amount of flooding in California. The snow for the East Coast, for me, the Northwest, I predicted the heavy snow. The East Coast, not so much. It hasn't been that snowy. Maybe up more north, like if you go up towards New York and Maine, and in that area, it's been quite deep in a lot of snow there. Colder, I think that we're going to still be, regardless of what your winter is like, I still think you're going to have a record to high temperatures across the globe for 2017. Like today in Pennsylvania, literally I had my flip-flops on. It was 74 degrees in February.
Yeah, those days are always, though, so welcome in the middle of winter when you're used to snow and everything else.
Exactly.
How do you figure, like when you said, well, like California is going to be one this year, how is that determined that this state may get it but not that state?
See, again, it's the method that I make my predictions, and it's the method that I've been using for as long as I've been making predictions. It's based on an understanding of numerology and understanding of the universal year, but it's also based on really focusing on the events during the month of October, which is usually a precursor for the following year, and then looking to see if it's in alignment with the energy of the one. So it's almost like a very it's a method that I developed that's probably unique to me, but it served me well because I think my predictions last year were so much on point, and so far this year it's turning out to be on point as well. So it's something that I developed, I guess, and so it's part numerology and part but even the way that I do it is based on information that I've read in numerology books. But not many numerologists do predictions on a year-to-year basis, I don't think.
How is your book, Speaking to Your Soul Through Numbers, different than other numerology books?
I think one of the things that there's information in that book that you will not find in other numerology books. There's little, what I like to call interpretations based on, when you do the volume of readings that I've done, sometimes the other numerology books, they don't even touch upon certain aspects of what I've experienced with my clients. So I believe that there's a certain pearls of wisdom in there of maybe not regurgitating what's already known, but actually adding to what's known. And I also think that very often people do not go into the essences and the transits in their study of numerology, and that's an incredible mistake because the essences and transits are amazing information to help us to understand what's going on in people's lives on a year-to-year basis. And a lot of numerology books don't even go into them. They don't even present them in the books. So I wanted to make sure that that was presented. It's my first book on numerology. There'll be more to come. But, for me, that's, if I was, and the reason why I wrote it is my students, because I've been teaching advanced classes for years now, my students really wanted it in book form. So I kind of wrote it more for them than for anything else. But I do think that there's some information in there that you won't find in other books, but it's really based. And it's interesting to me as well that the people that have really read that information have said, oh my God, finally somebody gives me an explanation about that makes sense to me. So I know that it was even, I've received feedback from people where they've picked up on that.
So if somebody wanted to start learning numerology, how would you suggest that they would go about that? Books, classes, seminars? What would be a good method to start?
I really think that numerology is best learned by doing it, because experience is your greatest teacher. I would get a book that by somebody that, a basic book, like Juno Jordan's book, Romance in the Name, is certainly a primer, if you will. It's a little outdated with its language, but still Juno was brilliant. You have to acknowledge her as being someone that, did numerology all of her life, but she also studied it with her colleagues for 25 years in order to come up. Some of the information that we use today in readings was actually brought forth because of Juno Jordan. So, when I consider somebody to be a highly respected numerologist, certainly that would be a book that I would suggest. But just get a book and then start doing it, because the only way you're going to get any good at it is by actually practicing and doing it. And it's not all that difficult to learn.
Alison's other book, Get His Number, A Numerologist's Guide to What He Isn't Telling You, is a hoot to read, and it's packed with lots of information in a very humorous way. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. After the break, we'll find out what Donald Trump's numbers are and how those numbers will affect the nation, along with what Alison has in her name that has assisted her that you may have in your name as well.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyatt, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Alison Baughman, whose website is visiblebynumbers.com. She's taken her skills to a level where she's able to assist others improve their lives by understanding their grand design in a different way than what namology science does. Alison, we would all feel better if we knew what Donald Trump's numbers say about him and how his numbers and he will affect the nation. Are his numbers going to help him in his goal of draining the swamp? And what else do you see in relationship to his numbers in our nation?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I answer that, I might get unfriended on Facebook a whole lot. So, anyhow. Donald Trump is a 4-life path, and he needs a 5 expression. So what you're seeing with the 5, the expression mainly being what he's here to accomplish, he's a catalyst for change. And, if I'm stepping back and taking an assessment of that, I would say that certainly he has created a great deal of change, making people maybe take more responsibility for their democracy and for the policy and for people becoming more interested. I mean, mainly because he's one of those polarizing figures, if you will. I think that the 5 is really his gift of communication. I don't see him as being particularly a gifted orator, but the 5 has the ability to communicate with people from all walks of life. And I really feel that, he was able to really connect to people, and that really maybe perhaps was his charm. Where my issues with Donald Trump are probably the same issues that I had with Barack Obama. I'm not a big fan of my president having karma in his chart. If we look to see how this was perhaps played out with President Obama, was he had what is called abuse of power in his chart, and quite often that can put somebody in a position of being powerless. And I really believe that the obstructionism that went on during his presidency, where it really kind of cut back on what he was able to accomplish, I think that was part of that karma playing out. With Donald Trump, we have almost every number in his chart, in his core numbers are karmic. So this man is also working out a great deal of karma. And again, sometimes I don't find that to be a overly positive thing for someone in such a position. But we do know that the one thing with him is it's not what he says. You have to watch what he does, as with all fives, because they can talk a really good game. They can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. They can, really talk their way out of any situation as well. So I think that is something that's really key with the five energy. The other thing with him is he does have a huge challenge to, to being criticized. It's written into his soul plan. And this year he's in a 3-year, and it's a 3 challenge. And that challenge really, I think this year we may see that, I don't really know how it could become more intense, but this year I think we will see it becoming more intense. I feel sometimes overreacting to criticism, which is part of the problem with the 3, But overall, the 4 in his life path number really is that, law and order sort of aspect of him, and perhaps why he places a great deal of emphasis on that. It all remains to be seen, how his presidency plays out. The thing about 5s is, just about the time you think you got them figured out, they change. So, he might be a hard one to pin down.
He'll be at least an interesting one to watch. In your book, Speaking to Your Soul Through Numbers, you indicate that there was 4 main, karmic numbers that you went over, 16 and 19. And so why are they called karmic numbers, just like you were saying that he had Donald Trump had karmic numbers, and what do they entail?
Well, karmic numbers really are speaking to your past life, and it really is explaining an experience in the past life that you've brought into this lifetime and almost created circumstances in your life so that you can work that energy through. And so there are specific numbers, the 19, the 13, the 14, and the 16 are all indications of karmic balancing going on. What they entail, certainly the 19 one is really talking about abuse of power. And so when the holder of that usually sometimes experiences times in their life where they're powerless, and sometimes 19 ones even are afraid of their power. Sometimes they back away from their power. 13-4, that is actually Donald Trump's life path number. 13-4s would indicate perhaps not having an ability to be disciplined or focused, in the past life. So in this lifetime, they have to work really hard to achieve things. They have to be efficient and orderly. And, 4 people, even with that karma, usually can be extremely successful in life because they are that focused on their career and working that hard, So the 14-5 usually can be abuse of freedom, or sometimes it can be an indication of addictions. And it's really interesting that Donald Trump says, and he's a 14-5 in his expression, in his own words, he said, I don't drink and I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that. Well, people at 14-5 generally don't, because they had addictions in a past life, and in this lifetime they're working very hard not to do that again. And it's not unusual for someone with 14-5s even to have people in their lives, it could be the family members or friends that have addictions or alcoholics or things like that. The 16-7 really has more to do with family dynamics, a love relationship where perhaps two people went off and lived happily ever after, and then somebody got left behind. So usually 16-7 has an indication of having to begin again or start over. It can be a series of events where, your life kind of crumbles down and then you're back to square one starting over again, and that's usually how that plays out in that person's life. I personally don't think that God punishes. I believe that when we review our souls, when we review our lives, if we're not happy with how it turned out, we choose to, perhaps write an experience into our lifetime so that we can grow and evolve. I feel like it's a free will choice, even karma itself. So,
may we address also what you were saying with cyber attacks?
Sure.
Of the possibility of that this particular year?
Yeah. Well, as I said, one of the things that I predicted was the cyber attacks. I think that we look at war with weapons, but I think that there's a different kind of war that's being launched, and this has to do with, taking, even if they took down the internet, but also hacking into our electrical grids and things like that. I feel like this year we definitely will see millions of people not have internet access for a short amount of time. I think there's going to be a lot of online breaches of security. I think it's definitely going to be a major story.
If you could change one thing about people's understanding or how they look at the world, what would that be?
I'm not so sure if I would want to project what I think is important onto someone else. I think it's really important for people to, what is right for me and how I arrived at my destination and what is important to me. That's native to me and important to me. And I think that, if anything, it's respect other people, respect their opinions, respect what's important to them. I think if we all could just understand that we can't change each other, we can only accept each other. And I think that and numerology really kind of teaches you why people are so different, Like I was sitting there and I've really taken a good long hard look at President Trump and his administration and the people in his circle. And these are thinkers. These are definitely people that are very mental. Not mental in a crazy way, although that's potentially a possibility, but they think. They really give things a great deal of thought. We're not looking at emotional people. We're not looking at caretakers. We're not looking at people that are overly concerned with the less fortunate people. We're looking at very mental people here. And I was thinking to myself, like when we look at the artists and the actors and that community and how very opposed they are to this administration. But people that have artistic talents are more emotional. They also are more drawn to those in need, more drawn to helping, those that are less fortunate, more drawn to charities and that sort of a thing. They are, that's what their energy is. So, even today I was kind of thinking about how, is one better than the other? No, they're just being who they are. You see what I'm saying? There's really no changing
that. They're just being who they are, and so both are okay, and both work for different people. Be prepared and be surprised and pleased when you experience Alison Baughman's work. Her website, again, is visiblebynumbers.com. Alison excels in her ability to remember minutiae, the details that may elude many, and then to use these details to enrich your life. This is found in the last letter of her name being an N in numerology science. If the last letter of your name ends in an N, you too can remember details well, especially in the areas where your interests lie. Do you want to know where your genius lies? I'm Sharon Lynn Wyatt, host of the radio show Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which can be heard weekdays at various hours right here on KZBN.net radio, an X-Zone radio station. Tune in to hear the fascinating ways that people live.